Well, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the little bit of delay there. Had some family stuff going. I needed to wrap up before I jumped up here. I was going to stream next week, but oh, we don't want to be looking at that, do we? I was going to stream next week, but ended up going to be out of town, so I'm going to stream this week instead. So how about that? Anyway, good afternoon, everybody. I see Jeff is here, and got some other folks online. Jeff's in the chat anyway. Thought I'd do a quick little stream today, just kind of talk about, this is going to be more of a talking stream than a demoing stream today. So I will certainly answer questions and demo anything that I can demo, but I want to talk through some important stuff today, which you can see on your screen already, and just kind of answer questions as we go along. Heidi ho to, I'm going to mess up all these names, I know. Denman? I don't know how much handles or actual names either. So, remind me where y'all are from. Just in the chat, throw some stuff in the chat on where y'all are from, and I will have a good idea where everyone's coming from. Oh, and Arjan's here from the Netherlands again. I got to look up what the time is in the Netherlands, because I'm always wondering. 8:04 p.m. Oh, it's not too late. I try to schedule these streams to encompass as much of the world as I can. And you know, there's an interesting tool that I have that tells me best time to stream, and I can't always match that. So I just kind of get it in there. Tiffin, Ohio. Thieslow's back. Hey, Thieslow. Yeah, you always can catch up, Thieslow. You can rewatch the old ones. It says he missed the last few. 2,000 hours in Netherlands. Also had to throw down some quick lunch too. Get all this stuff wrapped up so I could do a little stream. All right, so I know my topic today is pretty generic, so I thought I would just talk through a couple of things. One is my audio seems a little overdriven. Hope that's okay. Germany, and it's probably roughly the same time in Germany too, I think. Maybe. Let's just see, time in Germany. Use my Google food today. Oh yeah, same time as Netherlands. Oh, we have a lot of folks from overseas today. Interesting. You know what's interesting to me is that the overseas home assistant or home automation stuff is as prevalent, I think, as in some other areas, and maybe even more so. So, you know, you get this mindset of different areas of the world and the way they are, and you know how people live, and it turns out that it's not always correct. So it's interesting to have a whole bunch of different aspects or different areas of the world on, so I can kind of get an idea of what people are doing. Some setups for Zeus. I have one I need to get set up. Was wanting to hook it into the garage door, but trying to figure out my wiring on my side. Hey, Rasby. And we've got Tennessee represented. Tennessee is, I don't know. I think Tennessee's Eastern time, but it is Central time here in Texas. Time zone, Tennessee. I'm getting my geography lesson today, at least in terms. I can't spell Tennessee. Oh yeah, Central time zone. So it's same time. Well, no, wait. Central Standard Time. So I think we're in CST, Central C. Well, that's interesting. If it's Central Standard Time, why is it 2:07 instead of 2:08? It says Eastern Time. Well, what's up, Google? Central Time or yeah, CST and EST. Yeah, I don't know what that means. That shows my ignorance. All right. So today, as I mentioned, I want to talk through a couple of things here. One of which is going to be the latest security I made a really disgusting looking video. I tried to play with YouTube Shorts, which you just kind of hold the phone up and it tells you when Google sees that aspect ratio, which is the up and down version, which I always complain people do that. It's funny that that's a thing. I always tell my wife, hold it this way, not this way for videos. But anyway, if you make a video that way and you put it on YouTube and you put the word shorts in it, YouTube sometimes will interpret that as a shorts. But I saw this pop up, this 2.1.5 security bulletin yesterday when I was doing something else. And so I thought I'll make a couple of notices about that. So you're in Eastern, okay, so there's 2 different time zones in Tennessee. That's what Google was doing. So Thesla says he's 2-hour drive from Eastern time. I wonder how states deal with, well, that's not true. We have multiple time zones in Texas. What am I even saying? Forget I said that. Anyway, this security vulnerability, and let me get my little mouse guy up here. Mouse highlight. I like using mouse highlight. I want to talk through this. I don't know all the aspects of what I find interesting about this particular update is that we have some more details on this one. Because if you remember, we had a security vulnerability or a security disclosure, security notice 2 versions ago, which was 1.3, which wasn't very long ago. Like what is it, a week or more, a little bit more than a week ago. And so this blog is a little bit different. He says yesterday. I don't know if that's not what he meant was yesterday. This might be the old one. Anyway, so this is about security vulnerabilities in third-party custom integrations. It is not about the Home Assistant core. However, changes were made in Home Assistant core to address the third-party integrations. So if you're not familiar with custom integrations, they are not created and they are not maintained by the Home Assistant core developers. We all use custom integrations at our own risk. And so there was some information found on some of these custom integrations and vulnerabilities found that could potentially impact your Home Assistant instance. So as with any security thing, it's not necessarily you're going to be targeted or it's going to affect you, but it has the potential. And so it's best to get ahead of it than be affected by it. So if you don't use any custom integrations, you're not vulnerable. It's still good to update. You're going to get the latest code anyway. So if you're not running 2021.1.5, make sure you're updating that. So I do use custom integrations on both my development and my testing version, as well as my production. And I can just kind of talk through some of the custom components that I use. And you'll know you're using custom components one of 2 ways. You're either going to have HACS installed and you're installing stuff through HACS, or you have installed a custom components file or integrate or custom component directly through downloading the file and putting it in the folder and stuff. So in my case, I'm running all of these custom components. I've got the HACS itself, entity controller, which I haven't used actually. That reminds me, I need to make some sort of video on that. Mail and packages, all of these that I have are integrations, and then I have a lot of front-end versions or front-end custom components. So all of these that are listed here are ones I'm using. The point is I'm using a lot of custom components, and custom components are really nice. They do let me do things like create these custom buttons. They let me do things like the home feed card. What else? The mail and packages thing is a custom component. I think some of this other stuff is. So all these things are custom components. So for me, they really enhance Home Assistant. So I'm going to continue to use them. But when you're using stuff like that, that's not developed by the core, you run the risk of, vulnerabilities. So what the TLDR is, the highlights, that multiple custom integrations were found that allowed an attacker to steal any file without logging in. The previous fixes that they did were not sufficient. hence the version that we're on now and the security vulnerabilities we're doing now. So you should be running Home Assistant Core 2021.1.5. And my understanding is regardless of the install method that you're using, if you're running Home Assistant anything, you are running Home Assistant Core. And that's what you will be updating. So in that, they've added some mitigation to prevent the issue from happening. Upgrade custom integrations to a fixed version or remove them. Now, what I don't know is which ones are affected. Hello, Richard. We're just talking about security vulnerabilities currently. If you've used any custom integrations with a known vulnerability, we recommend you update your credentials. So when we talk about stealing files on your server, if you're running a configuration file with keys or secrets or OAuth stuff or credentials or whatever, my understanding, and I'm not an expert on this, my understanding is that these custom integrations that say allow attacker to steal any file without logging in, they could potentially steal your secrets file if you're running a custom component that's vulnerable. So here's some details. This security researcher, Nathan Brady, I don't know who he is, but there's a lot of them out there. He informed the Home Assistant project that there was a vulnerability, which is great. So it gave the Home Assistant folks some insight into the implementation of the fixes done for the previous vulnerability. And so in doing that, I learned that not everything was updated, or it didn't fix everything in the last update. So now they verified, this is the Home Assistant team, and you can see the author, right? Author is Paulus. He's one of the founders of Home Assistant. They found, so all fixes made to custom integrations that were found to be vulnerable were fixed. So in conclusion, some custom integrations are still vulnerable to a directory traversal attack while not being authenticated with Home Assistant. So it allows an attacker to access any file without having to log in. We said that. And here's what I was just saying. This access includes any credentials that you have stored to allow Home Assistant to access other services. So I guess here we go. So if you're running HACS to install custom components, the HACS itself has been found to be vulnerable. And this was fixed in version 1.10.1. In my little announcement I made yesterday, I said Home Assistant 2021.1.5 and HACS version 1.10.1. Now you can look, for those that are curious, you can look and see under HACS about what version you're running. So 1.10.1. So I'm on the latest fixed version that fixes the directory traversal vulnerability. And also in Home Assistant, if you're running supervised version, if you go to Home Assistant System, you can see the core version. You can see the supervisor version. And if you go to, I think it's configuration info, you can see also the version of Home Assistant that you're running here. And so I'm on the latest version. This is the second time in all of the time that I've dealt with Home Assistant that we've had an issue where they've had to announce security vulnerabilities. So I applaud them for jumping on this as quick as they did. This is an open source project, and so any open source project, any open source software that anybody runs, they accept some responsibility for running open source software. So I don't want to get into the whole discussion about open source and who's responsible for what part. I know there's been a lot of discussion on some of the forums about, we should be doing this or we should be doing that or we should get more, whatever. I think Home Assistant did a good job of telling us about this, telling us what we need to update. They also, I think in every one of these things you install, talk about the fact that Home Assistant custom components are not supported or maintained or developed by Home Assistant Core. These are things, and I wish I could think of a good analogy for this, but let's say you buy a house and you take responsibility for the house, But then you bring in a device that catches on fire. Is the person that built the house and followed all the code, wiring code and electrical code and plumbing code or whatever, responsible for something you bring in that's got a potential problem? No. So, I mean, you could kind of put that on here. Home Assistant's not responsible for the custom components. The custom components have the vulnerability. Home Assistant's done some work to mitigate some of the risk, or some of the way the custom components have been trying to get stuff. And so there we are. So these are the following integration custom components that have been found to be vulnerable. The HACS itself, fixed already. Font Awesome, if you use that. I don't use that. Fixed. BW Alarm, fixed. And Simple Icons. I don't use any of these but the HACS. It says read the previous security disclosure. Let me just see what's on the previous one. I don't know if they disclosed anything. Let's see, when was this posted? January 22nd. So there was this one before it, I think, and then this one, unless I'm running them all together now. Yep, so we can read through that one. I'm looking to see if they... Okay, so here we go. See, now, this was fixed in 1.10.0, but then 1.10.1 brings up. And then we have this. I don't know what that is. I don't use that one. I don't use any of the rest of these. Custom Updater. I think I may have used that in the past, but I don't remember. I don't have it now. Anyway, most of these are already fixed, and then of course fixed later on in another custom update. Custom Icons is not fixed. The HAST album is not fixed because they couldn't get a hold of the maintainer of this one. Can't get a hold of the maintainer of this one. So keep up with this. Yeah, and look, I mean, you can read all this. It sucks. It happened. Maintained by volunteers in their spare time, et cetera, et cetera. So go through and update everything that you have, and then keep up with these security updates. And I think they even put something on. They have an alerts page. Let me see if I can find it. So it talks about what they've done. Yep. So these are the things that they've done. They've released this version with extra protection to stop directory traversal attacks. The disclosure is shared widely and linked on banners, so you see it on every page here. I've talked about it. I've shared it on my channel. Hopefully others have shared it on their channel. It's for awareness. The supervisor will notify the user when a possible insecure installation is found that uses custom integrations. Okay. That, I don't know how it does that. Maybe down here, notifications or something. If I go to supervisor and I look at it, so I have three things here that need, three things that need updating. And we can look at the changelog. I don't know if this, I don't see anything specific about security vulnerabilities for AdGuard. That's a pretty popular platform. Drive backup I don't use anymore, but let me see if it has any issues. I don't see anything there specifically related to security. So I don't know how it's going to update this stuff, or how it's going to tell us on supervisor. And I just updated this thing this morning or yesterday. Yeah, I don't see anything. So if somebody knows, you can tell me how supervisor is supposed to tell you, or if you've seen something in supervisor telling you there's a security issue with one of your custom components. And these aren't even custom components. These are add-ons. These are add-ons from Home Assistant. So I don't see that these would be part of this issue anyway. So supervisor is supposed to tell us. I just don't know where it tells us. I mean, maybe this. I'm running it unsupported. That's because I'm on Ubuntu instead of the Debian or whatever versions allowed nowadays. And then running unhealthy. That's been there forever. Yeah, this is not supported apparently for Home Assistant anymore. So let me see here. What are we talking about in the comments? Hi, David. Hello, Richard. And maybe I'm reading, let's see. So yeah, Raspberry only runs the Alexa media player. So you don't do any custom work there, Raspberry, huh? For components like, buttons or things like that. I do have Alexa in there. I thought I did. Yeah, I got comments I don't understand. We'll skip that one. Beauty of open source, you have that much programmers working to correct the problem. Yes. There's a lot of stuff out there. And if you look at the HACS, the store, so front end's a big one, right? I think I talked about this before. If I click on this, there are dozens and dozens and more. These are all different custom components that you can put into your Home Assistant setup. And they can all be installed through HACS. I don't know, there might be 100 in here. I don't even know how to count them. But there's a lot. And that's for just the front end. We can look at this is probably integrations as well. Well, no, here's integrations. So these are all integrations for systems that are not native to Home Assistant or aren't built into Home Assistant Core or the add-ons. You can add these systems, these integrations into Home Assistant as well. Hello from Slovakia. Hello, Peter. And I kicked Alexa out of my home about a week ago. You know, I have been tempted to do something about that. I really am pleased with the Google thingy, the smart speaker. I have one of those, but the voice sounds better. Sometimes I'll tell the Echo device to turn something on, and it doesn't understand me, but I can yell from across the house to the Google device, and it does. So I don't know if it hears better. Maybe it's a newer version, and I'm not being fair to the versions of the Echo devices that I do have. But I know my brother, and I have no scientific basis on this, he kicked Alexa out of his house, and he's strictly a Google shop now, because he would say something, talk about something, and in one of his feeds somewhere on one of his social media platforms or something, the thing he talked about would show up as an advertisement. I don't know that I don't know that I've ever seen that necessarily. I'm sure it's happening. Maybe I don't pay attention. But I'd almost have to talk about something that I normally would never talk about to test it, because I look up stuff all the time. So I might have talked about it to somebody in the house and then looked it up on the computer. And then, of course, it's going to put it in my social media feeds or whatever, because it saw me search for it. You know, you could use like DuckDuckGo or something like that, where it doesn't supposedly, log your searches or whatever. But I don't care. I live in a society where I know I'm being watched all the time, and people are watching what I do. I just try not to do stupid stuff so that I don't get, something happen for doing that. We live in that society now. So I accept it. I play in this world. If I'm going to play in this world, I accept the consequences of playing in this world. But I would be curious if anybody else has notice that, where you say something and all of a sudden it shows up on your social media feed as some sort of advertisement or whatever. So I think I've beat the security stuff to death. If you want to comment on that, please do. I'm just curious what y'all's thoughts are on that. I'm from Texas, y'all. What your thoughts are on that, because again, this is the second or third now, I guess, thing I've seen related to this. Am I concerned about my secrets file? That's not a question in chat, but I'm thinking out loud here. If I pulled up my secrets file now and looked in there, most of the stuff that I do with Home Assistant is short of controlling like my thermostats or whatever.
The fridge temperature is high.
If you just heard that, the fridge temperature is high, it says. That was my Google device telling me that, and my phone alerting. That was a pushover alert going, and that was my Google device telling me that through TTS. We just got groceries, so that's probably normal. And I don't remember who told me this, but let's take a look, because someone's gonna comment on the fact that my fridge temp is too high. Let's look at what it is actually. Real life is happening right now. So right now in the refrigerator, it is 50.7 degrees. And that is high. So if we do, if we look at the graph on Grafana here, and today's feed is random. I have a couple of points I'm going to talk about. Not a lot of demo, unless if you want me to demo something or show you something, please throw that in the chat before it's too late, so I can kind of get processed and do that. Because I would love to show you all how to do something. I just didn't come prepared today to do a big production. I just did. I just want to talk about these points. Anyway, environment is where we're looking, I think. Yes. So now we look at the refrigerator temperature. And let's make sure you can see it on the live stream here. Make sure that my face and stuff isn't in the way. All right, so if I click on humidity is one thing, but oh, and by the way, if you live in Texas, you probably have fog. We've had fog since last night. We've probably had 12 hours of solid fog with visibilities down to a quarter mile. It's still foggy. It's 1:30 in the afternoon and it's still foggy here. It's crazy. It's a good day to practice instrument landing to minimums, because you're going to get there if you're a pilot. All right, temperature. So if we look, this is last 24 hours, and you can see it's cyclical. And I use a Sonoff thingy. So let's see, Sonoff TH16, I think it is. So those of you who haven't seen my other videos, this is what I'm using to monitor the temperature in the refrigerator. And it has a little, stop it. It has a little, well, you can see it here. There's a little plug that goes in here, a little probe. There's two kinds. You can use like the little metal canister one that you're used to seeing, and then there's another one that plugs into it. And I'm trying to find it. Well, that's cool. Preset. Oh, I don't know what that means. I should just look it up on the shopping site, because I can't find the actual little plugs that go in it. Where in the heck's the plugs? Sorry for those of you that are getting nauseated from me scrolling like this. I'm trying to find the actual thing, and that's where I was, but it doesn't show the plug. Anyway, there's a couple plugs that go into it. Oh, I saw them for a second. Where'd they go? I'm monitoring my refrigerator with that thing. So you can see here, the door was open for a little bit, and so it's coming back down. I have a problem with the defrost cycle freezing up the little fins where the airflow goes to cool it. So I put this sensor inside of the refrigerator. I actually have these things finally. These are these little BLE, Bluetooth low energy sensors that someone mentioned on one of the live streams before. I'm going to take one of these things, and I'm going to put it near an ESP board, which is in my bag of tricks here. I'm going to put it near an ESP board and see if I can remove the wire between the refrigerator, or that goes into the refrigerator, because I don't have that wire going in there. If I can set this little board, this is a Bluetooth Wi-Fi board. If I can set this thing in my on top of my fridge or whatever, and then use this little sensor, which there's 3 of them in a 3-pack here, that's why it's so big. Use this in there, then I can remove the wire between the fridge and that goes into the fridge. Now these are not good for freezers because the temperature range is not cold enough, but I could try it with a fridge, which is where the thing is anyway. That is a project that I keep wanting to do that I keep not getting to. Same thing here when I have this, and I talked about this before. I have the blue sitting here, pristine, it never turned on, and I know that's a shame, especially those that didn't get a blue with the case. If I bought one, I should be using it. I think that's not nice if I did that. Let's see here. Jeff says they thinks he did better than the average company. I think as open source, you have less. You don't have to report to shareholders. You don't have to report to people that aren't going to let you say stuff. You just say, look, it's broken. You accepted the risk. Fix it. We fixed it, and let's move on with life. So I think doing better than an average company is because they have the flexibility to do so. And I like that. Alexa, the voice recognition gets worse with each update. I will agree with that. I could share this little window here. Y'all can see the chat on the right, but I don't have the little fancy button to share my chats on screen because I'm using OBS. So I'm going to just show them this way. It's only 96.9% humidity about 2 hours north of Houston. Yeah, we're at, where are we at here? Where's my, and so let me look at my new weather graph. I pulled this right off my weather station in the backyard using MQTT and a little Raspberry Pi board with an RTL SDR dongle on it. This is, the humidity right now is at 98%. 98%, no wind, 65. So the thing about it is, I can't turn the air conditioner on the house to bring the humidity level down in the house because it's too cold. So there's no way to remove humidity inside the house. And it's been wet for 2 days. Everything just kind of soaked. Dew points are way up in the uncomfortable range here, above 65. So it's warm outside. It just feels gross and muggy. Welcome to winter in Texas. All right, what was I saying? Let's close this guy out here. All right, so I was talking chat here. Let's talk chat. Anyone using the OpenMQTTGateway with HA? We'll come back to that in a second. I think I have to do a forklift replacement of all my Echo devices, but at some point, as I do things, I think I'm going to start replacing them. I have the old tall original Echo in the kitchen, and that thing is deaf as whatever. I can be in the kitchen next to it and say, do something. And then I hear the one across the house respond to it. I'm like, really? So yeah, I think it's totally deaf, or doesn't understand me anymore. Help with Google TTS. Trying to set a sensor to detect motion at my front door and announce someone's presence. Dallas temp sensor. So this is where I get confused. Oh yeah, they are great, but I'm not sure what that's a response to. I'm still waiting on my Blue. Wish they gave more updates so I know we are both on the same page. I'm patiently waiting, but wish there was something to acknowledge. Did you order from Ameridroid, Jeff? Because that's where mine finally came from. And I ordered it like this. The second they released the website, I tried to order it, broke. And then I just pushed that button. And then all of a sudden, I guess it was a couple hours later, it just happened. And I pushed it and, oh, hey, I'm getting one. So, well, I didn't know I was getting one until it showed up because they were saying, some people ordered and the Blue wasn't available. So I don't know if they're trying to get more of those cases made or something, but that was a limited release. And I don't know if they really expected the demand from Ameridroid. So yeah, they were pretty responsive when I emailed them, just to say, can you tell me? But I didn't use any kind of website for their deal to figure out whether or not it was coming. I couldn't track it on their web. What is the OpenMQTT Gateway? I want to look at that. OpenHab has that. Okay, here's a how-to. Let's just see what this is. I want to make my own cheap gateway using Open. I want all these units or so. Okay, so that was absolutely less than helpful. I don't. Why is Google shutting down my links now? Second result. Let me go back. Yeah, the chat unfortunately is delayed a little bit. So when I click on these things, I don't see your responses right away. The goal is to concentrate in one gateway, different technologies, decreasing by the way the number. Okay, hiding the different. So I guess the question with this is, what are you trying to accomplish? Because there is a lot of, there's gateway. There's MQTT stuff in Home Assistant. So what, I see this here. Support very mature technologies like blah, 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 blah. Oh, so you're trying to take and make something provide. Okay, here we go. Monitor your garden with a MiFlora sensor and control an irrigation valve. And let me see. James is talking. OpenMQTT is a bridge between Wi-Fi and other wireless protocols like RF or IRBLE. So what are we trying to do with it in Home Assistant? Like, it sounds to me like it's something that you would put on a device that's not smart and make it smart by way of MQTT. I guess I need to read this here. Alert yourself by a controller if the temperature of your fridge is too high. Oh, hey, I'm doing that now. Detect your beacon smartwatch so as to trigger a special scenario. Yeah, that's okay. Lose weight. Hey, let's do it. OpenMQTTGateway can help me lose weight. That's amazing. Detect open door. So a lot of these things are, you know, they're accomplished in a lot of different ways. I guess I need to understand this morning. You know, sometimes when you get a little more complicated, and I'm trying to read this on a live stream, I can't process it as much. But at the surface, it sounds like you're taking a device that doesn't have any kind of smarts, although some of these do, and making it smarter or being able to send stuff to MQTT. Let me look at the comments because I think we're getting some answers here. Yeah, David Smith says security issues are difficult to manage. You have to get a patch ready before an announcement so it doesn't explode. Yep. So that's true. You got to make sure you're ready to handle it if something occurs, but not wait long enough that it gets exploited. I'm going to mute my phone now. Someone's at the door. Oh, yeah. You know, it's foggy and rainy outside, but yet the neighbors still come over and knock on the door to go play outside. I'll let somebody else handle that. All right. So, yeah. So we have to make sure we get the security stuff just about right. OpenMQTT Gateway is a bridge between Wi-Fi and other wireless protocols. But how does it communicate? Does it communicate over Wi-Fi or something else? And then let's see, I think this is more of being able to encapsulate other hubs and present it as the same device in Home Assistant. So if you change the back-end technology, it can be the same to HA. Runs on an ESP and you add other hardware connected to RF. All right, so here's an example. I'm trying to get my Bluetooth thermostats, the same BLE humidity sensors you just showed a few minutes ago, and the Xiaomi BLE plant sensor into Home Assistant. Running on a VM and on RAID. Okay, so if you're using an ESP32, you can, where am I going here? You can go over to, well, actually, number one, I think it should auto discover it. So let me go back to Home Assistant here. And if we look at configuration integrations, do you not see an ESP home thing show up here? Because then if you do, so I have one device, it's going to be the tag reader. Where's my tag reader? I have the tag reader that's running an ESP device, and it found it automatically when I got on the same, that's on the same Wi-Fi network as my Home Assistant, or same network segment. So Wi-Fi or not, it's on the same segment. So it found it when I plugged in that ESP. So you should have something here. And this isn't answering necessarily the open MQTT stuff, but it's talking about what it is talking about. What I am talking about is you should be able to get that stuff into your Home Assistant. So again, BLE sensors with ESP32 via Bluetooth and the ESP32 via MQTT with Home Assistant. So I'm probably going to be corrected here as I chat or as I talk here, and someone's going to see it and answer me after I've already said something. But once you have these entities here, and it's unavailable because I have it turned off right now, but these things, that's a switch. This is, well, I made an automation off of this. So let me go back to automations. And I feel like I'm getting a little bit outside of my knowledge area, and I'm going to start floundering a little bit. But if you take an ESP device and you plug it in and you connect it to your network, it should be picked up automatically by Home Assistant and then show as an ESP device in here that you can act on. You can do things with. Like you would have that show up here in your device list. I hope I'm not speaking wrong. I could be. but that's my understanding. This is an auto-discovered. For me, when I plug the tag reader in with an ESP board, what did I do with that board? Uh-oh. I have a bag of parts and no board. And I just want to look at the board real quick because I don't know, what did I do with the board? It's not like I don't have 20 more of them sitting here, but I feel bad that I lost the board. But anyway, it's got Wi-Fi on it, right? So as I talk here, somebody correct me. Somebody tell me what I'm saying wrong here. Or I am WLF, tell me what isn't working when you try to do this. And I think if you're saying, I think I see an issue here. If you're running in a VM on an unraid server without Bluetooth, that's fine. But VM on unraid server, one of the issues running Home Assistant on something like that is the ability to pass things through, all the ports and everything that needs to be passed through. And one of the ways that auto discovery works, and you see some of these entities here, like this is auto discovered. The ESP is auto discovered. Google Cast, I think, discovered. IPP discovered. All of these things that are auto discovery from my network are because my Home Assistant is directly connected to my local network. If you're running a VM and you plug in an ESP device, you may not be able to. It may not be able to auto detect the ESP device. And I'm going to try this. I'm just going to plug in another ESP device and just see if it pops up. Well, that's not going to work because it's got to be configured for my Wi-Fi network, right? So just looking at this thing. Yeah, if I plug it in, I don't think it's going to just find it's not going to be able to log in. I'm going to have to go through the whole process of setting it up. So not a good test for that. However, comment there and let me know when you're I'm thinking this is it, and somebody else who knows more than me, let me know there as well. Let's see if someone's telling me in my other chat stuff here. Oh, so somebody's talking to me in Discord. Yep, that's the rain sensor thing. Yep, I get that. All right, so let me know. I'm curious. I think this might be part of the issue. But if somebody is running these ESP32 boards, tell me in the chat here whether or not those just show up and get auto-discovered much like this ESP home stuff does. And while you're doing that, I just want to take a minute. We talked about security, so we'll move from security. The next thing I want to talk about is none of this stuff. I'm going to leave this open because I'm going to read about this later. I want to see what that does. And I'm going to also just do one more quick search because typically when I do this, I get something coming back. Oh, look, here's a whole document on it. So as to enable HAST auto discovery with MQTT, you have to uncomment ZimQTT discovery in user config and enable. So this is actually in OpenMQTTGateway. So OMG will use the auto discovery functionality of Home Assistant to create sensors and gateways into your HAST instance automatically. Okay, so again, a 30-second search here, and this tells me that you have to go into the userconfig.h file. I mean, is this almost sounds like, is it compiled? You have to recompile it. I'd have to read all this stuff, but that file doesn't just get added. You have to do that. And I'm looking here. Here's door sensors. So you're creating binary sensors in your sensor file, motion sensor switches, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I still don't get why this would be any different than using something else MQTT based. But if you're using that, you have to edit this file, userconfig.h, wherever that is in your source. And I'm guessing once you modify the header file, you have to recompile it. So there's probably a lot more here that I don't know. So yeah, I know I'm trying to be helpful, and I hope I'm not making it more muddy and awful for y'all. But learning as I go here. So you say the OpenMQTT Gateway works like a small hub for BLE RF. Okay. So, and I think someone else said that up above, and I didn't understand it necessarily. So this is something you put somewhere in your house or whatever, and it picks all these things up and sends it over to can push everything over to Home Assistant, and it picks up the sensors using auto discovery. So you need now I'm building a little architecture in my mind. You've got this device that's running OpenMQTT Gateway. It's picking up stuff, hearing things, however it gets it, and then it sends it over to Home Assistant via MQTT, or it's built into MQTT, and then see, now I've confused myself again. All right, I'm going to stop talking about it because I think I'm making it worse. But it is interesting and something I probably want to spend some more time playing with. 433 to MQTT is somebody's topic. SRFB to MQTT. Okay, so it's taking all of these things, HCR 501 to MQTT, and putting them into MQTT. So it's creating topics. It extends the BLE range. What do you run that on, IMWLF? Do you run it on these little ESP boards? Are you saying you run it on Home Assistant itself and these boards talk to it through BLE or something? David says, experience has shown me to do a snapshot first. Now with about 17 devices, one can bring down the whole thing down. Added a lock yesterday. Second one, the Z-Wave would not start. Had to do a reboot too. Is this built-in Z-Wave, Open Z-Wave? What are you running it on, David? And anytime I mess with my Z-Wave network, I always make sure I back it up. Now I'm running nightly snapshots, so I always have a backup anyway. The log probably has the secure node stuff in it, so that probably has a little bit more, does a little bit more to your whole setup when you try to install that. All right, let's talk about Z-Wave. And here's a whole thread about Z-Wave and the new ZwaveJS integration. And there is, and I need to find it. I better find it quickly because I thought about this when I should have had this ready for my live stream here. There is a discussion about OpenZWave and the status of OpenZWave, or the lack of a status. And I'm going back through some chat here to see if I can find it. Before the security stuff, give me a second here. Going back. So essentially what's happening is the developer of OpenZWave, there's a single developer, hasn't done anything in a while, isn't doing stuff because of other commitments. It's open source again, it's volunteer, and I don't blame him for that. But it leaves in question the status of OpenZWave. And a lot of us have jumped on the OpenZWave bandwagon and moved over to OpenZWave. And I think it's in a comment on YouTube, which it's hard to find. So what's now come out is this whole thing about this new ZwaveJS integration. So what they're doing is talking about making this the new Z-Wave for Home Assistant. And what I read is that is coming out, and I need to find that. Let me just spend a moment trying to really find this because I need to, ZwaveJS GitHub. Maybe this is it. I don't know. Let me try searching. So I want to talk about that. I want to find the thread because it talks about specifically about this. And is this it? I don't see that I've visited this. Well, let's talk through the thread. We'll just talk through this thing wherever it is. So anyway, the context is that the OpenZWave may not be a long-term solution. but this thing apparently is becoming the new solution. And when I was reading through the comments, maybe this is the thread I was talking about. It sounds like a better solution, and I'm trying to find the actual stuff. Now I apologize for being a little bit not on topic today. I'm trying to put all this together, but the idea is that this will replace it. Now I've seen some questions already from some folks in some of my comments or my media or whatever, asking about getting this stuff set up. And somebody asked about a migration, actually. So let me see. And this isn't where it was. Man, I wish I had that other GitHub thing up, because it really explained it well. And I'm going to go over to another browser and see if it's in my history here, because I think it was really insightful and talked about the reasons why it was good and why we should be moving over to it. And all that jazz. And we go look at it this way. Yeah, and it references this thread over here. Oh, here we go. Maybe this is it. Part of it. All right, I think this might be it. Let's read a little bit about this. Bring it over here for y'all. So the context here. So currently we're based, if you're running OpenZwave beta, you're based on OpenZwave 1.6 using the OpenZwave daemon as an intermediate bridge and MQTT as the protocol. So if you're running that, then that's what you have here. So development had a flying start, that's what he says. And now we're at a point where there are multiple issues. And some of those are because of MQTT, unpredictable results in fetching the startup state. I've had this issue now with my my Playroom Lite. It continuously goes offline whenever I restart Home Assistant, because for whatever reason the MQTT is sending a command or something that I messed up when I did it, and it's retained that command and I can't get rid of it, and so it keeps messing stuff up. So I've seen this unpredictable results thing. The complexity of an MQTT broker and the OZW daemon for both users and developers. I don't think that's right. To me, that's not an issue. I don't care about that. MQTT runs a lot of things. I think it's kind of fun. But if it's complex for developers, then yeah, that's probably an issue. Stability issues with the daemon, not starting at all or sudden restarts. I thought it was a feature that when I restarted Home Assistant, like the whole host, that OpenZwave did not start up. I've had times where it never started up, and I thought, again, it was a feature, so I would go in and start up the add-on. I don't know what the deal is with that. So maybe that's what they're talking about here. Device compatibility issues that need to be fixed upstream, meaning OZW's got to fix it. So if you have a device that isn't working in OpenZwave beta, it's got to be fixed in OpenZwave, not anywhere else. And so if you're relying on one developer to do that, you're not going to do that. Now, one of the biggest things here, and this is where I think I'm getting to, and apologies for such a small font here. It's very popular. Lots of people rely on it. Its main development is driven by one developer. There was not a lot of help in the past, and here's the reason why. It's written in C++. That used to be a popular language. When I was going through computer science courses, C++ was it. Now you've got things like Python and JavaScript, and he references young developers. Python is huge, right? And all this other stuff, JavaScript and a whole bunch of other things are coming out. So, and he cites the fact that some of this knowledge is missing from the Home Assistant devs, the long queue of getting issues fixed. So if you have a problem with a device, what are the chances of getting it fixed? With one person doing it in C++, not timely, at least. And then just recently, the developer said that he's taking a break from it. It's just too demanding, too much going on, and so forth and so on. So that's the state of where OpenZwave beta is. And I just moved to that. And I mentioned a few times, I really haven't had much issue with it. All my stuff works. I don't have any problems with any of my equipment other than that Playroom thing. And I broke that. That's a function, I think, of MQTT setting a retained value into the node and messing it up every time. And I thought I deleted it, but apparently not. Something's wrong with it. Or it could be that switch is just finally dying. I don't know. We'll see. But, other than that, I haven't had any issues. And there's no reason to jump off of OpenZWave beta right away. Now, the proposal they're talking about is implementing, where is the only open source library that ever existed is OpenZWave, except its Python wrapper has gone stale. So they're saying the best option, create a Z-Wave driver completely written in Python that requires a ton of stuff. So instead of all that, there is a new open source Z-Wave implementation, ZwaveJS, a driver written from the ground up in JavaScript/TypeScript, and it's gaining a lot of traction. And one of the reasons why some of the reasons, it's got good documentation and a good code base. The language is more popular, so you're going to have more people contributing code. And it says it has given thought about easily exchanging device-specific configs. Not sure specifically what that means, but just the fact that it's on code that's maintainable by a large number of people will allow it to be fixed and stuff contributed. So while this project is primarily developed by one person, and they name him here, Al Kazoni, it's more likely you'll get more help because it's based on a language more people understand. So a few members of the small team that was or is actively developing OZW integration for Home Assistant have explored options. And it says the last couple of days exchanged thoughts about all this. So this person goes on to say, even though it means that they will have to smash 70% of the work from the last year in the trash, saying something like that and saying, even though we have to destroy a lot of our work, we still think we should make the switch now instead of OpenZWave. So during the conference, there was some discussion about, or the Home Assistant conference in December, there was discussion about making OpenZWave no longer beta, but regular non-beta. I wonder if this now is going to change all that. And my guess is yes. I have not played any at all with ZWave.js. In my development server or my Raspberry Pi that I'm playing around with, might be a very good place to play with that. So here's some consequences of all of this. And I know I'm just spouting off a bunch of stuff today, and that's what I mentioned, that this is just kind of like a talk through today. This is a talk show today without guests. Well, chat guests. No real demonstration of stuff. So anyway, that's what we're going to continue doing. The actual interaction with the Z-Wave stick will still be detached from Home Assistant. So that means that if you restart Home Assistant, your mesh will not have to restart. That's always been an issue with Home Assistant's integrated Z-Wave. When you restart Home Assistant, your whole Z-Wave network has to restart as well, and that takes a long time, relatively speaking. It also says here, instead of talking over MQTT to the daemon, a Z-Wave server will be written, which can be fired up in its own process, even maybe a Docker image or add-on. And it will be the bridge between Z-Wave hardware and Home Assistant. Now, I think we have that now, OpenZWave add-on, and then we have the OpenZWave integration. The add-on does the talking to the devices. The integration bridges that to Home Assistant. So I think it's similar to what we're seeing already. It says here that this bridge will serve any client interested in utilizing the Z-Wave mesh. So Z-Wave to MQTT and Home Assistant can be used side by side, which is kind of cool. And then it says, because the above mentioned broker is no longer a hard requirement, it reduces complexity, especially for new, less tech-savvy users. You can manage the entire path automatically. You can work with developers of ZwaveJS. We have knowledge of the upstream code, can fix things. Apparently, there are some features that are not supported in OZW, such as firmware updates. And it seems to be a bit faster and stable from a first impression standpoint. So, and then no more instability issues that was haunting many users. Now, I wonder how much of this has been tested out there. I don't know how old this ZwaveJS stuff is, but if it's been around for a while and these are true, and then this is going to be a big step forward. There's still some missing classes and devices such as garage doors, but because it's software that is more well known, or it's written in software or code that's more well known, people can contribute to this, which is what it says here. Again, this is true of OpenZwave beta. A fully automatic migration will be more complicated because of the fact that internals are handled differently. So you had to do a little bit of migration from OpenZwave or Z-Wave built into OpenZwave beta, mostly renaming of stuff. Now, I don't know what this means by internals are handled differently. Does it mean that your devices aren't going to be pulled in off the USB stick or whatever that they're on now? I don't know. So this person summarizes this, and this person being Marcel Vander. I don't know. Some of y'all might know who this is, and I hope he's not on the chat today, and I'm not acknowledging him, but I don't know if he's involved in Home Assistant directly or whatever, but he's making all these points. And so from his kind of TLDR is the bottom line is overall feeling by me and others is a very solid. It's very solid to make the switch. In other words, he feels comfortable moving over to this. And of course, there's this whole thing here we can read about, and it talks about what all of this is and how it's all built and a whole bunch of other things. It says blazing fast. I wonder what blazing fast means. My network's pretty fast. When I say turn on the light, it's within a second or less. Oh yeah, okay. So Ray Cruz says probably means the way it handles the add and remove and update functions. That's the one thing that's nice now with OpenZwave beta. If I go to the integrations page, do I even have it open? Do I have it open? Oh, I want to leave that open. Yep. All right. So if I go to the OpenZwave page and I click on configure, I can add and remove nodes just by pushing the buttons. So if Ray, what you're saying, it makes it more complicated for that, then yes, I don't know what that means specifically. I'm pretty sure if this gets built into Home Assistant, that something like this, which is probably just a webhook or something that sends a command, is going to be the same kind of thing. It shouldn't be too hard to build that, I wouldn't think. I don't see... yeah, this is basically the high level stuff. So this is how you build it and do stuff to it. I don't see, yeah, I need to digest this a little bit more, but it's all custom code. Yeah, but the way it seems, and there's more down here where Paulus is talking about it. So he says starting over is painful. It was painful when we started OZW in 2019. It will be painful again. But he's in agreement that we're currently not in a good position to continue the OZW development. So I think, and I mentioned this before, in the 2021.1 release or whatever we were doing, the latest live stream that the Home Assistant team did, they talked about this, and I wasn't sure what was going on at the time, and now I have a lot more context. And Paulus basically mentioned this. He says, we're not in a good place. We probably shouldn't spend a lot of time on this OZW stuff if it's going to be an issue getting it taken care of. So he says a note here is that the proposal is about introducing a new integration, like a domain is to be determined, so it may not be Z-Wave domain, maintained by the people working currently on the OZW integration and add-ons. So the OZW 1.4 Z-Wave, which is built in, and OZW 1.6, the OZW beta, will not be removed from Home Assistant. So if he says that the domain is to be determined, right now domain is like things like switch and motion, binary sensor, Z-Wave. Those are domains. So if they add a new domain called something else, I guess they can run all this side by side. Speculating again, of course. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff in this whole discussion here. And you can read through all that. I read this whole thing. I'm not going to read it all. I just want to give some context and some thoughts on what's going on. So if you're running Z-Wave now, and everything is working, I don't anticipate that you're going to have to do anything at all. Excuse me. If you want new functionality and you want to keep up with what's going on, and maybe some point in the future, or maybe I would say far future, they decide they're going to sunset some of the original Z-Wave stuff, then you may want to start thinking about it. But by then, hopefully they have a migration path. They have a lot of stuff built into it. I will probably start playing with Z-Wave or this ZwaveJS stuff on my test device just to play with it and see what it's all about. Because I want to know what it is, and then I can help you all when it gets to that point. And by the way, it's so humid here that my sweat-proof cup is sweating. It's not supposed to do that. So, what are your thoughts on the Z-Wave to ZwaveJS? Or you probably maybe don't even have enough information to have thoughts quite yet. So I'm looking for the original poster has a response here. What did he say? To what? Oh, and I want to see what Paula says too. And this is all like 19 days ago, so it's not brand new, but it's pretty close. And he says a small server wrapper that sits on top of ZwaveJS that can be utilized by us, Home Assistant, but also others like Zwave2MQTT. So it's interesting that we're talking about this OpenMQTTGateway stuff, because this ZwaveJS almost sounds like it will be a hub device for Z-Wave stuff that can be utilized by Home Assistant and other things. So in the true API model, where you have an API that sits there and everything queries the API, this is almost like that client server or this API model where you have this available, and then other stuff can also talk to it. So if you're using Z-Wave to MQTT now and you switch over to ZwaveJS, you probably can still use it. The details of how that works are going to have to be hashed out or whatever, or learned, but sounds like it's going to be that way. You can even run Z-Wave to MQTT together with HAS implementation if you still want MQTT. So for a default user, the Z-Wave server will run with only one consumer, which is the HA integration, but there can be others. So that's nice. I mean, they're thinking through these things, which is interesting, and we're not going to be left in the lurch. I'm not worried about my Z-Wave stuff. If I decide to update Home Assistant tomorrow to some new version in the string of versions, I'm not worried about my stuff just stop working all of a sudden. So no worries about that at all. What else here? Yeah, I don't want to read through all this. I know it's boring for y'all to sit here and watch me read things. So one other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, to make my answer more complete, you can also decide to leverage Z-Wave to MQTT to get your devices into Home Assistant if you wish. I don't want to show that picture. All right, and then again, we go on and go on. And this goes on. It's quite... So here's a question about running such a local... So first focus on covering the basic stuff, but architecture support this. Z-Wave driver will be easily to run on different systems from HA. Yeah, so they're talking about something different. And so we go on and on and on. So if you want to read through that, here is the link for that. It's a GitHub site for architecture issues for Home Assistant. What thoughts do you have? What questions do you have? And I've spouted on and rambled on here for a while now, and I'm ready for you all to ask me questions or chat stuff so I can answer those for you. It doesn't have to be related to any of this stuff. It can be whatever. And I do have one question from someone who asked me on YouTube earlier if I could do a video or tutorial on how to edit the XML file for Z-Wave for specific settings. And I don't know if they're watching the live stream or not, but if we look at this, and we're talking about modifying the XML file to do specific things, I'm assuming that we're talking about, where is it at? Yeah, that goes in automation. He referenced this URLs while I'm looking at this page here. All right, so, oh, I see what we're doing here. So modifying the command class. So this is where you really get into some detailed stuff, or not next level. You get into some little more advanced stuff. And so I'm going to pull here I'm going to find that file. Let me close all this stuff out first. Speaking of secrets.yaml, I don't want to expose that on the video. It's already potentially exposed with the security thing. All right, so if we look in this configure, I'm looking at my Visual Studio Code, and my Visual Studio Code is connected to my Home Assistant instance via Samba, a Samba share. So I can see it directly in the standalone Visual Studio Code, but any editor or file editor or whatever can do the same thing. So I think what we're talking about here is I have a couple of these. Here's a ZWave device or here's the XML file for ZWave, and I need to make sure I look this up, or you need to look it up or whatever. But I think this is the file that contains all of the device classes for ZWave in Home Assistant. And well, actually, this is the node IDs. So this is all looks like this is all my setup. So we're talking about this file over here that was referenced. You'll need to uncomment command class 38 in the imported configuration file. So you have to actually go over for some of these devices. You have to get, yeah, it actually talks through this here. Let's just use this as an example. So this is an iNovelli device. In order to use the iNovelli device, they're going to, what are they doing? SSH or something here? Yeah, they're adding SSH. So you have to download the config files. And what this does is it adds a command class to the ZWave configuration in Home Assistant that doesn't already exist. So you're going to go down and download this file or whatever. I'm not going to go in detail. This is kind of a high-level look at this. You open the ZWave config file. So we have to go find OpenZwave config manufacturer specific. All right, so that's a different file than what I found here. And I don't know if I can get to that through this. I may have to actually get on the terminal and do it. So to answer the question that was in the YouTube thing, to make a video on this, I don't know where the OpenZwave file is. Config, unless it's just right here in front of me. See, I have a bunch of config directories. I don't really understand why. Open, I don't have it here. So I probably have to get on the system itself. So I'm not going to go into this is a whole thing. You've got to download the files. You got to find the manufacturer if they have specific command classes. And in this case, they talk about this instance has to be added to, for this LZ130 or LZW36 deal has to be added in and all that stuff. And you go update the command class, and then it becomes available to Home Assistant as a device or whatever. It recognizes it in the ZWave stuff. So I'll have to go through, and if I'm going to build a tutorial, I'm going to have to really get into this and do it the right way. So for the person that asked me that on YouTube, if you're watching, if I will put that on my list of videos and talk about it that way, because doing it on a live stream isn't going to do it justice. All right, so Andy says, you recently migrated from the integrated ZWave component to OpenZwave. Why did you decide to migrate to OpenZwave instead of the ZWave to MQTT add-on? Well, I thought OpenZwave is where we were going at the time. And so I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to do the work of moving over, that I did the one that was going to be the one that we're going to be on for a while. Well, as is the case in open source stuff, that wasn't true, or we're finding out that's not true. I didn't actually know about the ZWave to MQTT add-on until I started messing with that a little bit more, or messing with the OpenZwave stuff, and I started seeing that referenced around. The built-in ZWave doesn't use MQTT at all. And so MQTT and ZWave together weren't a thing for me at all. I didn't move over to OpenZwave because I wanted to do MQTT. It just happens that's the way it works. So it wasn't like a huge like epiphany thing. It was like that's coming up next. OpenZwave is what they're going to. I didn't do it for a long time because I didn't want to break my stuff, thinking it would break it. And then one day I said, I need some content. Really, I need some content for my YouTube channel. Let me go ahead and migrate this stuff over. I'm feeling brave. I had a lot of coffee, whatever it was at the time. I said, I'm just going to go ahead and do it and see what happens. But I did it in a way where I could go back if it failed, because I don't want my lights and stuff in the house and all my locks to be broken. Primarily, my locks were the big concern I had. I don't want that stuff to be broken because people rely on that to do things. So when I moved over, I didn't have any issues with any of that, and so I just stayed. But there wasn't any big driver other than that between those two. I just didn't even really know a lot about Z-Wave to MQTT. And I don't know what that offers over what OZW actually offers. To me, it seemed like it functions almost the same way. Without any experience, I'm saying that, of course. So thanks for the question, Andy. Again, nothing major on the reason why I did that. I just felt that's where we're going. Now, when I make a video on moving from OpenZwave to ZwaveJS, if that question comes up again, it's going to be the same answer. That's where we're headed. That's where I want to be. And I'll just look up here what Z-Wave to MQTT actually has and related to blah blah. Add MQTT to Home Assistant. Yep, already did that for OpenZwave. Install this add-on. Delete Z-Wave integration or remove Z-Wave config from configuration. Yeah, don't do that until you test it. Start with Z-Wave and Z-Wave settings serial port, which is the same as OpenZwave. In MQTT settings, set that up for the server gateway settings. And then the new Z-Wave sensor nodes, or new Z-Wave nodes are now in MQTT integration and have new entity names. So it almost sounds like it migrates. At least that would be a plus. So Andy, I'll turn the question back on you. Do you use MQTT or Z-Wave MQTT, or are you just asking because you're curious? Is there a preferred? Does somebody prefer Z-Wave to MQTT over OpenZwave? Thoughts? Because to me it looks pretty similar. It looks like there's actually more configuration here than just plugging in OpenZwave beta integration and the add-on. Once you install the add-on and assign the device path, and you go over to integrations, it automatically finds it in the integrations section, so you don't even have to do anything there. The one thing I had to do was rename everything to a different name because I couldn't duplicate the names between the regular Z-Wave and the other Z-Wave. So, thoughts on that? Thoughts and questions on anything else? We'll probably go here another few minutes. If you've got some questions, throw those things in now. Hey, look, my browser wasn't all the way down. Look at all that real estate I lost today. All right. So today we talked about security. Little walkthrough on that. Make sure you're updated on the security. We talked about the Z-Wave, the state of Z-Wave and Home Assistant, and the fact that we might be headed to OpenZwave or ZwaveJS. We talked a little bit about this. I'm going to spend some more time with this one because I want to see what that one does. I mean, I got a pack of these ESP boards, these little Z-Wave boards. I got 5 or 6 of these, and I want to play with them. I need to do some on-air soldering and wiring and breaking things. I need to do some of that on-air live stuff. It's always fun when someone breaks something live on air. What else do we talk about? More of that. A little bit of, that's still more of that. And then a little bit of this. So Andy says, just curious, just started with HA, but Z-Wave to MQTT seems more powerful. Mesh graph. So there is a custom component that you can use. I have it. I would like to see, this is hard for me to read unless you zoom in. This is my current This is my current MQTT mesh. All these devices. This is probably a door lock. Oh no. So occasionally, oh, no problem, Andy. You're welcome for the answer. Fridge, I mean, these battery powered things come and go on here. I haven't spent enough time in the map. I just installed it to see what it looked like, to see, you know, a quick overview. This should be my Z-Wave stick. Zappy, Zap. Security, is it the HA security saga? Yes. There was a long discussion at the beginning of today's stream regarding that. Yeah, here's the door lock. I don't know why these things turn yellow and red. It says 9 failed, I guess is why it's turning red. 0 failed, 3 failed. So there must be a threshold that turns the colors here. This says, well, no, because this says 5 failed. I wonder if it's RTT time. So that's 1821 seconds. I guess it's in seconds. Whoops. And then this here's yellow, 505, 31, 88. I bet these colors are related to round trip time. So this is this fridge door sensor, which is the one that alert. Well, no, this isn't that one. Anyway, this is a fridge door sensor. It's battery powered. I'm guessing that the RTT time is why it's red. And so all the rest of these are green. And so it does have a nice map. And Zappy, you are correct, not actually HA. We went into detail on the fact that custom components are the reason for the security announcements, not HA itself. HA was updated, but HA was updated to help mitigate the issues created by the custom components. So yes. And you... Yeah, you can go back and watch it though, Zappy. No problem. You can listen to all my rambling about that. But yes, we did cover that quite in depth. Just because I think there was some initial confusion and a lot of that, and I just wanted to talk through it. What are these gray things? These are gray. What does that mean? 0. Oh, that's my smoke detector. That should be fine. Some of these battery-powered things probably don't check in very often. And this guy out here, I don't know what it is. It's been around for a while. Node 4 doesn't have anything. Uh-oh, dock's on. All right, well, if dock's on, then I have to leave because I don't want to interfere with... I don't want to pull all of Doc's viewers over to my stream. I wish. So if you follow Dr. Z's, sounds like he's live streaming now, according to Raspy. So what I will do is I will thank you all for, the problem with these things, Zappy, with exposing the world is some of these have to talk out to, well, anyway, you can read that. I don't want to dig into that again, but yes, firewalls are your friend as well. If you're running totally internally, then you have less likely of an issue, but it's still, those custom components are there. Okay, so I appreciate everyone's watching today. Can I give a link for the ESP Zigbee? Not sure what that is. ESP Zigbee? The ESP 8260 or the ESP boards that I got? That, yes. But Zigbee, there's a bunch of places. Where'd I get them from? I mean, you can go. I'm trying to find a decent link here. Let's just go here. This might not apply depending on the country you're in, but ESP32. So you can find these things. Oh yeah, so that's what these are. You can find these things. I don't know which one I ordered. I could go drag this off and see, but like I got a 5-piece or something here. So you can get these from just anywhere. You can get them from AliExpress, I think. You can get them from Banggood. You can get them from wherever. I will put the link. Actually, I think these are in my description of my video. I'd have to go back and double check. But if they're not, I'll go put them in the description of the video. But look for those ESP boards in the video description, and it might be there. With that, I want to thank everyone for... showing up today and watching me ramble about stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm going to jump off so that y'all can jump over to DocStream, and we will see you on the next live stream. I'm still in Discord, and you can continue the chat on the comments for each video. It's all that kind of business. And so thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.